And welcome back, everyone. It's the week of What If, but we got some whole wins to do. So this one comes to us from Claudia Schell, who asked the question: Who wins in a fight, the Leprechaun versus Annabelle? Now, obviously, this isn't the actual Annabelle doll. The one we see in the movie isn't what the doll looks like. It actually is a Raggedy Ann doll. In fact, the effed up thing about it, if I understand correctly, is that it's believed that the spirit might have now left that doll, so it is now just an inanimate doll. But yeah, so this is essentially a leprechaun versus a demon, because that is what Annabelle actually is. It's a demon that possessed this doll. Or at very minimum, a demonic spirit. Maybe not a straight demon, but a very malevolent spirit. In combat, though, Annabelle is a very hard character to kind of not articulate, but really use in a fight, because Annabelle isn't a fighter in the traditional sense. It's trying to possess, bodies, steal souls, all of that. But it does this more through manipulation tactics, trying to get into your, body and your spirit, your mind, your soul, all that stuff. But it's not incapable of doing some things. For example, like most demonic entities, there does seem to be a level of telekinesis that they all seem to possess. There's also manipulation tactics. There is, messing with your, like, kind of screwing with your dreams, and can cause physical harm as well. Like whatever the spirit's body is, it can physically interact with the world to some degree. But Annabelle's also kind of impervious to standard harm. Destroying this doll wouldn't destroy Annabelle the demon. You would need some sort of ritual, holy magic, whatever. So you would need something that can attack the supernatural, the incorporeal, all that. Whereas the leprechaun, on the other hand, is a little bit more easy to figure out. The leprechaun is a leprechaun. He is from Ireland. It's not quite known how old this particular leprechaun is, though he is well in the hundreds of years old. And by the time we get to, say, leprechaun in the leprechaun in space, he's well over thousands of years old. Assuming, of course, it's the same leprechaun. Uh, in terms of what he can do, though, he's got leprechaun magic, which in essence kind of lets him do whatever he wants to various degrees. Now, I say various degrees because we've never actually seen the full extent of what the leprechaun can do. He seems to be able to teleport, change his outfit in an instant, create hot rods out of junk, scrap without any issue whatsoever, summon a pogo stick. Um, Turn invisible. He can also kind of possess people to some degree with his blood or by biting them. I'm trying to remember everything I can. He's also impervious to standard forms of harm. He can feel pain. Yeah, like I think it's in the Hood where the one guy just starts boxing him, just keeps putting him down, and just keeps getting back up, and then he just kills him. The leprechaun does possess, more. Is actually possesses strength more impressive for someone of its size. But that being said, he can still get beaten around pretty easily. That said, though, it's believed his magic is tied to his gold. That's why he's so obsessed with it. I would need me gold. But even then, I mean, he still seems to have magic available to him without his gold. So it's difficult to say where that weakness truly ends and begins. But we do know, is particularly from some of the other movies, that he has a weakness to four-leaf clovers. He also if he sees shoes, he needs to polish them. And he's got a weakness to iron, because it's traditional Fey lore back from the medieval times that the Fey type creatures were weak to iron. So now, and that being said, also the leprechaun can be straight blown up and defeated, like in Leprechaun in Space. He just does get turned giant by like a laser beam, but then gets blown up. But he was still able to just give someone the finger from space. Yeah, he can also move his limbs independently, even if he's kind of disarmed, if you will, dismembered. So, with that said, the question would simply come down to who's got a more exploitable weakness or who's got powers that usurp the other. If we're going by who's got powers that usurp the other, the answer straight out is the leprechaun. The leprechaun can do far more than what Annabelle's ever demonstrated, be it inducing nightmare horrors or some levels of telekinesis or fear inducement, whatever. The leprechaun can do all that and then some, really. But in terms of who's got more exploitable weaknesses that the other could exploit, the answer actually is the Leprechaun also. The Leprechaun is the more magically powerful of the two, and therefore could do more to Annabelle, the Annabelle doll. But he's also got more exploitable weaknesses. But the catch on that is they're not weaknesses that the demon would inherently know, because the Leprechaun's powerful enough to resist demons. He's powerful enough to resist your demands. But no, he's powerful enough to resist something like demonic entities, at least as far as we've seen demonstrated. And Annabelle's not going to be able to delve into his mind, as far as I can tell. Not that Annabelle can normally do that anyway. It's that delving into someone's mind, kind of getting into their head, takes long-term exposure to Annabelle more than anything else. So I would probably give this one to the Leprechaun, only because his powers probably could affect a demonic spirit of some kind that's an Annabelle. He could probably just break Annabelle. The demon, though, would get very furious. The Leprechaun would be like, "Oh, so that's what's going on now." So that's what was going on here. I see. Me boy. Well, aren't you a big strapping demon? And the Leprechaun probably just talks shit to this thing. And then, yeah, maybe it tries to throw a Leprechaun around, but it just can't do much. Now, that is, again, if we're being as fair as possible to Annabelle, assuming that whatever demonic entity is in the Annabelle doll isn't also old enough to know what a leprechaun is and know what the weaknesses of a leprechaun are. Because if that's the case, then, mind you, four-leaf clovers, it's not just going to magically manifest a four-leaf clover. It doesn't clearly have that power. Nor is it just going to throw shoes at it. Even if it does throw shoes at it, that's just to hold leprechaun off. No, what it would need is iron. And a lot of it. If not to bind it, then just to skewer him. So, unless they're fighting in a spot that has a lot of pure iron, even if the demon knows what a leprechaun is and knows what the weaknesses are, it's not going to matter for this fight. So, I'd still probably lean towards the Leprechaun, who, after the demonic entity is released, Leprechaun probably can see the supernatural, so it sees it. Just suddenly, just boom, boom. Well, then, just maybe suddenly summons crosses. Oh, you can't fight the power of the Lord, and you can't fight the gold of the Lord, or the gold of a leprechaun. So, yeah, I'd still say it's the Leprechaun who'd win the fight. But it wouldn't be like a complete smackdown, I think. That's why I didn't go into the speed round. Because the demonic entity could certainly throw the Leprechaun around and kind of ragdoll him for a bit. But overall, yeah, I'd still go the Leprechaun. But it's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.